Hello and welcome. Today I thought I'd take you guys through a series of movements that will benefit the hip area. We will be utilizing a few different props. If you don't have these props, however, you can definitely still take class. You can get creative with what you use, and I'll offer some options throughout. So don't be afraid to take class if you don't have any of these things. But some things that I'm going to talk about and use. One thing that's kind of nice to use when working on the hips and trying to gain some strength and mobility is one of these little looped bands like this. I have this one I ordered on Amazon. It's super cheap. So if you do find that you want a little extra and you don't have that, that one's kind of easy to get online. I am going to utilize a little bit of a squishy ball. This I know is kind of a weird one that not many people have, but you could also utilize like a tennis ball. I have these little like yoga tune-up balls that I'll use as well. So tennis ball, we're going to do a little massage on the hips as well. Also something like a foam roller would work. But I've got the props listed below, so you can grab those things and pause me really quick to gather what you've got. And if you don't have any of it, no worries, you'll be just fine without them. So I've been dealing with some hip pain for a couple months now, since we kind of started this quarantine, and so I thought I'd just kind of walk you through some of the materials that I do on a regular basis to try to alleviate hip issues. Mine is located in the hip flexor, so I hope you enjoy and find some things that work for you. So we are going to start on the back today with the feet just hip distance apart, and just nice and easy through those hips here. And just take a moment. I've got my squishy ball here. I've just got to place it off to the side. We are going to grab it in a second, but just take a moment and take your palms of your hands to the fronts of your hip points, the ASIS, that bony prominence, anterior superior iliac spine, just to get fancy words on you. And then I want you to just kind of take a little scan of your spine. You feel your sacrum in the back of your pelvis on the floor, and then you've got that little curve in the lumbar spine away from your mat or your floor. Try not to push it down, try not to overly arch it, but just notice it. And then the upper thoracic spine curves back towards the floor, and then the neck, the cervical spine curves away from the floor. And just take a moment just to kind of feel nice and easy through the hips. You might want to take a little bit of like a little teeter-totter or windshield wiper from side to side, just nice and easy. If it's early in the day and you haven't really moved yet, nice idea to kind of start a little more moderately. Just take a little bit of that side to side motion here, just starting to get that back, that lower back warmed up. And then just let the legs settle right in the middle here. Take your hands back to those hip points, your ASIS. And we're going to start to facilitate a little bit of a pelvic tilt. So imagine when you go into your bridging spine, when that first little like that moment before you get up here, that's the moment that we're working on. So I like to keep the hands here, and you're just going to scoop through the pelvis. So weight is in the feet. In other words, you eliminate that little arch in the low back, and then you're going to set the pelvis back down. So again, it's a small movement. So we kind of curve the spine, kind of tipping the pubic bone towards you, and then just set the sacrum back down. We'll do one more time, just simple like that. So we take the pelvis up, and you should try to keep the glutes fairly inactive for this one, and then lengthen down. Now the reason why I like this ball is you'll see, so I put the ball right underneath my sacrum, and it just gives you a little bit more space. So same movement, but now with that ball underneath, just kind of curving through the low back. And then this time you can exaggerate that tilt forward of the pelvis. So I scoop the pelvis towards me, and then I find that forward tilt. Now notice, and the reason why I like to keep my hands on the hip bones here is just to make sure both sides are working evenly. Mine do not, and so it really takes kind of a little more awareness to make sure I'm working evenly. And this should feel like a really nice kind of opening and movement, mobility through that lumbar spine, that low back. It should feel really nice. It's a good one if you're sitting for a while and you just need to alleviate that low back pain. Good.
Take your weight into your feet, lift your hips up. Slowly take that pelvis back down and hug your knees into your chest, nice and simple. Just starting with a little bit of an easy kind of circle and stir through those knees. Now remember, I'm kind of catering this towards a little bit of an, pain or discomfort in the hips, or maybe you're tight in the hips. So just kind of know that we're taking that more gentle approach with this class today. And it might be a nice warm-up too. I do have an abs and a glutes workout that could pair nicely after you do this one as a warm-up too. All right, hugging both knees into your chest, extend those legs back to hip distance apart. I learned this one from a modern dance teacher and I really do enjoy it. So I've got my hands on my pelvis again. You're gonna extend your right leg out underneath of you, nice and long. And then we churn it out, external rotation, and then you kind of slide the knee up the side and then you move it back to parallel. And then we go into the other side, slide it down parallel, turn it out, and then passively bring it back up to the center. And then it's nice to stay mindful of this opposite side, so that knee and that hip is not moving as you kind of move in and out of that kind of external rotation here. We'll do one more time each side, so we'll do 3 in each direction. So as this leg slides up the side, I'm thinking about the stability of that opposite side, and it's just a nice little hip warm up. All right, then we reverse. So this time we go out with the knee first, again without altering this side. Slide it into an extension, move it back to parallel. That heel slides right back in underneath of your sit bone. And then we move to the other side. Open, extend it out, parallel, slide it right back underneath of that sit bone. I'm gonna give you the view from this side. I think might be kind of nice for you too. So then I go out, I extend it long, parallel, that heel slides right underneath of my sit bone. And again, turn it out, extend, parallel, and back in. Good, I think that was 3 times each side. Really nice. So we're gonna take that right knee, we're gonna pull it in towards the chest, nice and easy. And then we're just gonna take some ankle circles as you extend that leg up towards the ceiling. It should feel kind of nice. And then reverse the ankle circles as you coil that leg back in. Soften back to the floor. Opposite knee floats in, circling through the ankle, extend through that leg. Other direction, circle as you pull it back in. And soften back down. One more time each side like that. Soften the knee in, circle through that ankle, reverse, and back down. Soften it in, circle. Maybe you get all those little snap, crackle, pops through the ankle and foot, and then release it back down. Really nice. We're gonna hug the right knee in towards the chest, extend your free leg out, and then feel that length through that opposite hip. Good. Maybe just take a flex here. So we're energizing, you're lengthening this leg, it's not bent up here, you're lengthening, lengthening long. You might wanna flex both feet. Good, and then just switch out for the other side. Pull that opposite leg in nice and tight. Good, both knees pull in. We're gonna rock ourselves up to a seated position, really nice. We're gonna start with this exercise that starts to get those hips nice and warmed up. It's a resistance exercise that I really do enjoy. So we're gonna start with the right leg here. And I want you to start with soles of the feet together. I'm in a moderate position. I could bring my heels in closer, but I'm kind of protecting a little bit of an injury. So I'm gonna kind of watch that range of motion. So I take my hands underneath of this knee and I pull it towards me. And this is kind of where this movement starts. So I'm gonna pull back with my hands as my leg pushes down. And then you just resist back in. So your arms pull up as your knee pulls down. And in turn, that's gonna start to create some work through that bottom hip. Now I want you to think of working in like a 75% effort. This is not the hardest thing you've ever done, but you should start to activate a little bit of that hip here. I'm gonna say you wanna get about 8 to 10 reps in here. So I'm pulling it back in and then I resist it down. I'm gonna do about 2 more on this side. And every time you push down against that weight of the arms, you're activating that bottom side.
Hold the leg at the bottom. Take your hands to the inside. Now, not pushing the leg down. I'm going to resist to pull it back to the midline and then take it back down, not pushing it. So I resist in and I take it down. Resist it in and down. Good. So before you were probably feeling outer leg abduction, and then now you're going to feel a little more inner thigh adduction, AD. Those ones are confusing. Good, about 3 more times like this. So you might feel a little bit of a warming sensation through that hip. That is the goal. Good. Awesome. Once you finish that side, just take your legs out in front. Just give them a little shake here. All right, and then we'll work into the other side. So you're going to take your hands underneath of that knee, pull it in towards you, and then it wins over to take it back down. So you pull it in and press it down. And just see what happens. Again, I was having a conversation with a friend yesterday, and so often we feel that kind of little spark in our brain when we do movement that I have to get to that, you know, my edge or my absolute, you know, biggest working potential in order to feel a difference. And that's not necessarily true all the time, especially when we have injuries. Back off a little bit, back off, you know, to 80% and see what other like small nuances you can find within your working out. Let's change the hands to the inside as I ramble. But just, you know, play with that, especially when you're dealing with injury. You can back off a little bit, and it doesn't mean that your movement is invalid if it's not 100% to the max, like, you know, a lot of us are used to doing. So here, for example, it does give me some pain when I bring that leg in. So I could go way farther than this. I'm not going to. I'm going to keep it really small where I don't feel pain. And in turn, I end up getting that muscle work that I wouldn't get if I were going, you know, a bigger range of motion. I'm just going to play with that. Not necessarily just for this class, but as you continue moving. Good. One more time. Oh, good job. Extend those legs out in front of you. Give them a little bit of a little shake there. Really nice. I'm going to take you through a nice quad stretch that I really enjoy. If there's another one that you would rather do to stretch the front of your thighs, please feel free to do so. I really like this one. I like to take my legs in towards me, and then I just reach my weight over the balls of the feet just like this, and I kind of sit on my heels just a little bit. And then I take one knee, I tip it down a little bit more towards the floor, and then you move into the other side. So we're kind of, see if I can balance and show. We're stretching through this area as that knee reaches towards the floor. So we're not arched to the spine at all. Just feeling that nice length through the front of the hip, the front of the thigh. Maybe one more breath or two on each side. Good. All right, go ahead and sit back down. And we're gonna go ahead and take ourselves onto our sides here. If you have your little loopy band, now's a good time to put it on. And it just goes right above the knees. Again, if you don't have it, no worries. You can do all of this movement without the band. It just offers a little more resistance and effort here. So I'm gonna sit onto my side here. You've got 2 options. You could cradle your head, or you could let the head hang flat. I'm gonna cradle my head today. We are gonna start with the knees out in front of us, and the heels right underneath of the knees. So right angle through the hip, right angle through the knees, and ankles right underneath of that. First things first here, I want us to find our connection into our side body. So I heard a wonderful teacher, Michelle Larson, describe this, and I love teaching this. Top hip reaches down that direction, and then just kind of release it back down. Now to really feel this, scoop your hand underneath of your waistline here, and then again, take that top sit bone, reach it long, and then just notice that bottom waist starts to work. Yeah, and believe it or not, your obliques support your hips quite a bit. So we're gonna start here. Keeping those heels together, you're gonna hinge that top knee open and then bring it back in. And just hinge it open and bring it back in. Good. Now your goal here, while keeping that bottom side working, is to make sure your hips stay stacked. Try not to let this hip roll backwards in space. And we just go a little up and down.
Good. And I'm not gonna go too crazy with these today. Again, I say this in a lot of my workouts on these videos. If you would like to go longer than I'm doing, just press pause and do reps until you feel like you're done. But I'm gonna kind of just keep it a little bit shorter. So just know you can do that for sure. Good, for 3 and 2. Hold it up at the top. We're gonna do little pulses, 10 little pulses, little baby micro movements for 3 and 2 and 1. Hopefully you're feeling that outer edge of your hip at this point. Really nice. We're going to extend those legs out underneath of us and flex your feet as much as you can. I do want you to lay all the way down now. So my hips are stacked. I'm strong through that bottom waist. And now I lift that leg up straight to the side, just like that, and take it back down. Straight to the side and down. And you'll notice that that bottom leg really does have to show some effort too. Your bottom leg isn't just hanging out, it's really resisting and pushing down into the floor as your top leg lifts up. You can make this a little more challenging by moving that band down to the ankles. That would make it a little harder. You could also challenge your balance by bringing the top arm up towards the ceiling. Good, we're gonna do 3 more for 3 and 2, good. And 1, take it back in. Really nice work. We're just going to get a little bit of movement for those obliques there. I did say that they do support your side, so we're just going to do something short today for that. So we're going to lift our hips up off of the floor in a modified side plank here. Take your top hand behind the head, and we do just little pulses so that those hips reach up and then back down. Little pulses here. And the place I want you to really be focusing on, bottom obliques, right through here. Little pulses. Good. For 3 and 2 and 1. Hold it here. Reach that arm up nice and tall. Good. Take those hips all the way down. We're going to rotate to our belly here. Keep your feet flexed. I'll scoot back a little bit for you. Keep the feet flexed. And again, we're going to be working on that right leg, what was the top leg before. And rest your forehead onto your hands. Good. Pull your heels out just a little bit. Pull those heels together, lift both legs up, and take them back down. Both legs up. Now, in this position, I want you to try to eliminate the stress through your back. So the reason why our forehead is down is I don't want you to engage any of this back. I want you to use all of your glutes. Good. Let's go 3 and down. 2, you're also getting a nice stretch through the fronts of the hips. Hold it there on 1. Good, pressing your knees a little bit farther out on your band. Hold it here for 3 and 2 and 1. Really nice work. Bring your legs to parallel hip distance apart. Good. You're going to extend your free leg down underneath of you. Keep this opposite leg that was your top before. We're going to kind of just lift it up to the back and just a few little kind of bend and stretches here. It's not a huge movement, and again, I want you to release and try not to use your back so much. Try to isolate it through hamstring and through the booty. Good. 2 and 1. Really nice work. Awesome. Maybe to transition to the other side, we'll do something fun. So press yourself up into a push-up position. Hold it here. I'm going to walk forward a little bit so I have room. Bring those hips up towards the ceiling, walk your feet in, and just kind of find a little bit of a stretch through your calves, through your ankles. You can do a little paddle out here. Good. Nice. Take your knees down, swing on over to the other side. Here we go. So take yourself, lay on your side, right angles with your hips, with your knees. Heels are right underneath of your knees, and then just make sure that we engage through this top side. So I'm pressing my top hip down. I'm engaged through the bottom waistline. So I lift that leg up and bring it back down. Just those little movements here, engaging through those abductors, outer hip. Good. And again, listening to your body. This is my hurting side, so I don't go as big on this side. And you don't have to. Just kind of, find where your edge is, back off of that a little bit. Hold it up there, little pulses for 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Really nice. Extend those legs underneath of you. Nice long body here, and then we lift that leg up behind us, or to the side of us really. And we lift it up, and it goes down. Make sure that you're not looking at your feet, but you're really just looking out in front of yourself. You're not crumbling that posture at all. And remember, if you want to pause and do extra reps, feel free to do so at any time. Good. 3 more like this for 3. And a 2. Good. 1. Bring it in. Bend through those knees. Take your elbow underneath of you. Hand behind the head. Lift those hips up and take them back down. Good. So we lift the hips up and we take it down. Bottom obliques are working here. Supporting those hips. Important kind of helpers for that area. Good. And then we do little pulses here. Little pulses with those hips reaching up for 3 and 2 and 1. Hold it here. Good. Hips go down. Nice, nice. Take yourself onto your belly. Turn those legs out here. Take your hands underneath of your forehead. Knees are pulling out. We extend those legs up behind us and bring it down. Heels together. Extend those legs up, pressing out on your band, and take it down. Good. Extend it up and bring it down. Hold it up there this time, pressing your knees out into your band for 3 and 2 and 1. Really nice. Parallel with the legs, flex to your feet, extend through your right leg, and then that left leg lifts up. Hold it there and bend and stretch. Hovering the front of your thigh off of the ground. So we're working glutes and you're trying to find your hamstring here. Also want to find a little bit of a pull out on that band, so we are still getting outside of the hip for 3 and 2 and a 1. Nice work. Take your band off. Good, good, good. And then you're just going to take that band off to the side. We're going to find a little bit of a stretch, and we're also going to use our tennis ball or roll or whatever you've got to do just a little bit of rolling here. So just have that nearby. We're going to start with a deep psoas stretch that I think will feel really nice for us. So it's also nice to have something nearby, like a chair or like a little foam roller or something, because this one can be hard to balance. So start with your right leg in front, and you're just going to start in a nice lengthened out lunging position. I'm going to scoot myself back so you can see me better. All right, so I'm lunging here, starting to breathe and really stretch through that front hip. And sometimes I like to kind of play with the alignment. So today for me, I'm wanting to turn this front leg out, take both hands to the inside, and just kind of rock into that hip. Just kind of feel it out for yourself, what feels good for you. And then we'll move into this psoas stretch here. So this is where I like to use that foam roller. You're going to come up to balance on that knee, and you might need to put a pillow or like a towel rolled up underneath that knee. In this position, I want you to tuck that tail, so no arching through the spine, and then we tuck the chin into the chest. So we're feeling a really deep length through this front of the hip. And the deeper you breathe here, the more you're going to feel that nice stretch. Good. One more time. Awesome. Nice. Take those legs back underneath of you. We're going to switch to the other side. So this time we're going to bring our left leg forward. Going to bring yourself long into that lunging position here. A few breaths into that front hip. Again, if you want to kind of rock into a little bit of a turnout, that is fine. And knowing when to kind of back off. And when it's causing pain or discomfort, it's probably something that your body's telling you you should back off of. Yeah, our body is very smart, and we need to give back to it because it gives a lot to us. And then we're going to take our psoas stretch here. So that knee is right underneath of the hip. We're going to find that kind of tuck of the tail here. Think a dog tucking its tail between its legs, and then bring that chin to the chest. Stretching through that psoas. Good. Taking a few breaths. I imagine that I'm filling that front of the hip up with air as I breathe in. Just a visual, it kind of helps me release. All right, releasing that stretch, coming back down. We're gonna finish out with a little bit of hip rolling here. So I'm gonna choose to use my ball. You could also use a foam roller. You could use a bigger ball, a tennis ball, and if you don't have any of that, you can also do it without that. So I'm gonna take the ball underneath of my left hip here, and I've got my hands behind me, and I'm just gonna kind of start to roll around on that ball. If you don't have any of the above, you can kind of just lean on your hip and you can kind of move around. If you've got a hard floor, the area between the floor and your bones, it's gonna get a massage. Yeah, but the ball's just kind of nice to kind of isolate that massage. And what I really like to do here is I just find a place and I pause and I just sit on the ball until it releases. And so oftentimes, the reason why I teach like that is, you know, with the roller, ball will just continuously kind of roll over the problem area instead of just really kind of not letting it, just not giving up on it and letting it actually release. So that's my kind of reason for doing that. So again, this might be a nice time where you want to just pause in between, or you kind of finish out with me and then spend a little longer rolling out if you do need a little extra time. But just for time's sake, to keep the video a little shorter, I'm going to kind of go through this in an express way. Another nice tool here is you could figure 4 that side. I've got my left leg crossed over because I'm on the left hip. But we'll go ahead and venture on over to the other side. Again, feel free to pause and spend longer there. I typically would spend a little longer. And then moving on to the other side. And again, I just kind of roll around just to kind of feel out, oh, I'm sore there, I'm sore there. And then once you decide you want to kind of chill out, just find a spot and chill out. And then just another little thing to think about, making sure that you never aggravate any kind of nerve pain that might shoot down the leg. You have your sciatic nerve runs through this area, so if you do have issues with sciatica, you don't want to trigger any of that. So if you do feel sensations like that, don't do it. Maybe move to a different place. And again, you could do that figure 4-2 here if you'd like. Really nice. All right, I saved our last little hip stretch here. So if you paused and did a little more rolling, feel free to do that, but we'll end with a stretch. I'm going to give you 3 options today for modified kind of pigeon outer hip stretches. Option number 1, if you have a hard time getting to the floor, you could do it seated. So this is really the stretch here. You could do it on the floor like this if you're already on the floor. You can also do it throughout the day, or if you can't get to the floor, like this. And you just kind of stretch over that leg. That is option number 1. Option number 2 is kind of a twisting stretch. So you're going to take that leg over top, hug the knee in, twist away towards that leg, and you're going to feel a stretch through that outer part of the hip. The last option that I'm going to perform that you can do with me is your full pigeon stretch. I'm going to get into a little bit of a lazy way today, but we extend that back leg behind us. This front leg is out in front of us just like this. Take yourself out and over that front leg just to stretch. You might want to get yourself all the way down to where your forehead's down on the mat. Just try to square off your hips. In whatever version you choose, just wanted to offer a little variety today because this is more of a kind of an injury focused class. I'm just kind of breathing into that stretch. You don't always have to be nice and still. You can find, a little bit of resistance drawing the legs towards each other. A lot of times you'll find that you can find a deeper stretch if you back off a little bit and activate a bit. I'm going to take you through the next side. Almost done here. Opposite leg comes forward. Extend yourself into that pigeon or cross the opposite leg. And just take our last few breaths here in our pigeon. Just right about at 30 minutes, I believe, which is a nice time
to end. And feel free to come back and do any of those movements that you like. This is kind of a nice way to kind of gear up to do a little more of a workout if you've been really tight through the hips, which a lot of us are right now, being stuck at home and you know, not really moving around as much. So you might be ready for a nice walk now, or maybe a little jog. And I do have a glute workout on here too, so maybe you feel ready for a little bit more. But yeah, please feel free to reach out with questions, suggestions, anything that worked or didn't work for you. But those are just some things that I like to do to just kind of like get into my hips a little bit. I'm feeling a little bit better this morning after doing all that. So thanks for moving with me, and I hope that all of that helps. And I've got my Venmo information below. These classes are pay what you can if you can. So please keep coming if you don't have it right now, and I would love for you to keep coming to take class. But if you do, I've got that information there. I hope you have a wonderful day, and thank you for working out with me.